Hi, hey, and all those other greetings, Spade Adventurers. I'm Jenspins, welcoming you guys back to my gaming and unboxing channel, where today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from how we usually do things. Because after watching the Nintendo Direct, I felt a little bit inspired by one specific game. That being Mario Tennis Fever. Now, I'm not super excited for this game, even though I loved Mario Tennis Aces, and it's been 7 years since a tennis game has come out, which I didn't even realize. But I was really hoping that we would see something like Mario Baseball, because it's been since the Wii since we've gotten that, and every console, the first sports game is usually tennis. So I'm a little bit tired of doing that same song and dance formula. However, we got some crucial information that did inspire me. That being the fact that we will have 38 characters in the roster. I can't do predictions like this for stuff like Kirby Air Ride, because we pretty much have as much information as we have. We don't know how many characters are going to be there, we don't know who's going to be there, and I don't know Kirby that much. And there's not really any other game that's like, hey, what's the roster going to be like? So I figured it would be fun to do this, and I made a little roster mock-up. I do apologize because my mic is right next to my mouse, and I didn't think about this, but you guys are probably going to be hearing a lot of mouse clicks, so I apologize for that. Starting off, I want to start with all of the characters that are currently confirmed for the game. So we got Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Pauline, Donkey Kong, Rosalina, Luma, Daisy, Bowser, Petey Piranha, Boo, Birdo, Chain Chomp, Shy Guy, Blooper, Spike, Waluigi, Wario, Toadette, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Baby Peach, Baby Wario, Baby Waluigi, who's a completely brand new character, and he had like a bootleg plush that was made of him like in the early 2000s, and it was super weird, but it's actually very accurate to what Baby Waluigi ended up being, and I think that's very funny, because the same thing happened with Baby Rosalina, where people made fan art, and it was almost exactly like the fan art. I do find it interesting that we don't have like Baby DK, but he is like in with the babies in the story mode, and we don't have Baby Daisy or Baby Rosalina, which honestly I'm fine with, because that trade-off does give us Baby Wario, who has literally not been in a Mario game or any game whatsoever since like Super Sluggers. Again, Mario Baseball. And we also got Baby Waluigi. I really figured he would have shown up so much sooner, but it makes a lot of sense for him to be in a tennis game, since Waluigi did debut in tennis. Now, for those who saw the recent trailer, or you may have watched or looked at the wiki, you might be looking at this and being like, when was Toad confirmed? Here's the thing. Toad was not confirmed. And I think that's super weird, but unless this is like a weird Mario Kart 7 thing, you really are going to tell me that Toad is not going to be a playable character when, like, in every single side game he's been a playable character, and you also have Toadette? Like, we're not talking about like Waluigi missing from Mario Kart 7. It would be like if Waluigi was there but Wario wasn't, you know? Like, if Toadette wasn't there, I'd be a bit bummed, but I could be like, okay, maybe they'll do some DLC and add her later. Toad, though? He's in the game. Like, he's got so many different colors that are already in the game that you have easy costumes for, and it just makes so much sense for him to be playable. So I just instantly said, he's confirmed. Because also, Wario wasn't shown in the trailer, but Baby Wario was. So by that logic, like, Wario is in the game, but that also means that I had to use some Mario Tennis Aces renders for Wario, but that's all right. So that is everybody that is currently confirmed inside the game. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to look at the characters who are most likely going to be in the game, because it's, again, like Toad, it would be weird if they weren't in the game. We're looking at Koopa Troopa. Now, I found out recently he apparently has not been playable in that many Mario Tennis games, which is surprising to me, because he shows up a lot in stuff like Mario Golf, as well as like Mario Kart. You'd think it would be Goomba as like the main enemy, but it's Koopa Troopa. as like the main guy that you are constantly seeing as the enemy rep for all of these games. So it would be kind of weird if he wasn't in here. Now the other thing too, I didn't realize this until I completely finished the list and I was looking through pictures for a different character, but apparently in the trailer there is Paratroopa with a racket. Now this doesn't confirm Paratroopa is playable in the game, but it's kind of like Mario Tennis Aces, where like eventually they had Boom Boom and Paratroopa be like free DLC that was playable, and I think it would be kind of silly to be like, hey, here's a character that has a racket, they're playing tennis, but you can't play as them. Especially if it's like, again, in Ace's story mode, you literally were doing rallies against Kamek. Kamek had like different animations for it, could do specials, all but like was playable. So in a game that can have free updates, I don't see why not. You could argue Paratroopa is in the base roster along with Koopa Troopa, but right now we're just going to ignore that fact and say, hey, Koopa we'll say is probably going to be in. Para might be like down the road in an update. Not that I'm predicting updates, but just to make things less confusing, I guess. Bowser Jr. is a weird one because he's kind of like in that weird Waluigi Birdo state where you'd think he would be confirmed because he's Bowser's son and it just seems like a given, but he's also been excluded from games like Mario Kart 8 and 8's DLC. So again, that just makes it one of those things where he's not here, he might be a free update, but I felt that it was worth a mention because we don't have all of the characters confirmed, and I think he is very likely. Like, if Birdo is in the game, but Bowser Jr. isn't, that's a little strange to me. Honestly, again, just like Birdo, for some reason Nintendo has done this thing where Birdo and Diddy Kong are just not in any games. They're just excluded, and if you're lucky, they will sometimes randomly be added as the free DLC or even paid DLC. It happened in Mario Tennis Aces, it happened in Mario Kart as well. Birdo is in Mario Kart World, but Diddy Kong isn't. So it hasn't been unlikely that Birdo would be in, but Diddy wouldn't. But I figured if I didn't put Diddy, people would be yelling at me in the comments, where is Diddy Kong? Why is Diddy Kong not on your prediction roster? And I would just kind of be like, I don't know. Personally, I actually think he is probably going to be, again, another free DLC type character, but I didn't want to make people mad. And I meant to say this at the beginning, but these are my predictions to what I assume could happen. This isn't necessarily my wish list or what I personally would want, but what I think Nintendo could do. Kamek's another one where they've always gotten like a weird kick to the butt in rosters. Like Mario Kart 64, they were supposed to be in and just got scrapped and didn't get into Mario Kart until like 8 DLC. Hasn't really been playable much, but did make an appearance inside of Aces, and we talked quite a bit about Kamek as well. I think it is very possible because the baby characters are very tied to characters like Shy Guy and Kamek. We don't know what turns them into babies, but there's an entire game about Kamek trying to stop the babies from saving themselves. I think it would make a lot of sense for Kamek to at least be in the game and probably be playable. The next one, I honestly was going to put this as a new character, and when I looked it up, I found out they actually have been in Mario Tennis before. That's Wiggler. This is a strange one, just for the sheer fact of I really didn't think they were in, but they were in Mario Power Tennis and just not in any tennis game after that. And you might be like, Spins, why are you just randomly throwing out Wiggler? And I think it's one of those things of Wiggler's a very cute character. A lot of people seem to like Wiggler. And ever since Mario Kart 7, Wiggler has made a decent amount of playable appearances. So I think it's pretty fair to say if they're going to add another Mario enemy, Wiggler is a likely choice. Again, right now it's safe choices. I will get to not safe choices in a moment, and trust me, it'll get it'll get wacky. But like, he's in Mario Kart World. He's playable in not Mario Party, but he does show up as like a board type thing in Mario Party. And usually he does make pretty prominent appearances. So I really do think that Wiggler is a pretty safe bet. Now that is all of the characters that have been inside of Mario Kart Tennis that I think are going to be returning / no are going to be returning. But now it's time to get into all of the new characters that I think will be there. I'm going a little bit safe again with Hammer Brother. It's one of those characters that it makes a lot of sense for Mario Tennis, especially after like Odyssey. He's got the frying pan. He just would make so much sense. You could give him like a hammer racket. This could easily be Boomerang Brother, Ice Bro, Fire Bro, whatever bro you want, but Hammer Bro is usually like the standard one. And I believe he is also in the audience, or at least is confirmed to be in a non-player role. So I think it would make a lot of sense. Some of these are based on the idea of, hey, they're already in the game, so it's a little bit more likely with what we know that they could be in. So that's my logic on Hammer Bro. The next one is Nabbit. Nabbit's very similar to Wiggler, and this easily could have been a character like Ninja, because Nabbit has been popping up a lot more. I've always really liked Nabbit, and he's been in a lot more games. It started with the new Super Mario Bros. Game, and then he was in Mario Wonder. He was DLC for the 3DS Mario Golf, and then he's now in Mario Kart World. A lot of people seem to love Nabbit, including myself, and you already have a few things, like if you use Bowser Jr., you already have the Scarf model. So they could easily just most likely take the same model, put it on Nabbit, save just a little bit of development time if they wanted to. But I really do think that Nabbit would be a fantastic choice. He'd be very fun to play as and could easily be a speed character. You know, he's got the bag, so he could maybe have a thing where he can just switch rackets or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he'd be really cute and really fun to be able to play. More things that I can play Nabbit in would be fantastic. And I think a lot of people agree, because he's slowly becoming one of those like obscure fan favorites, a little bit like Petey Piranha, in my opinion. So the next one, Cappy. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. Like, Mario Odyssey put Cappy in such a prominent role. He's a character that helps you. You can play as him with second player. Every time you go into the Odyssey, he pops out in his ghost form, and he talks to you about tips and stuff. And yes, I do understand that Pauline is the Mario Odyssey rep, because she was brought back in Mario Odyssey, but she is still originally from Donkey Kong. She was in other games. It's not like Mario Odyssey completely revitalized her. She was in Mario vs. Donkey Kong, you know? So it always has irked me a little bit that everybody's been like, oh yeah, she is like 100% the Odyssey rep, and it makes sense. I understand why people say that, because Nintendo does treat her that way, because her appearance, her references are based on the Mario Odyssey representation. And she makes sense to be here. We don't have a lot of females, especially human females, so why not add another one to the roster? And I'm glad she's mainstay, because there were a few games where I was like, why is Pauline not here? You definitely pushed her to be in this role, and super cool, you have her returning. Why not have her return? And I feel more so for Cappy. Like, granted, he was only in Mario Odyssey, but I don't get it, you know? Like, the Brutals not being here makes sense, because there's so many Brutals, and it'd be the same issue as the Koopalings. And unlike what Sonic does with the Deadly Six, they're not just gonna be like, oh, here's Topper, and that's it, here's Harriet. You know, Nintendo is gonna want to put all or nothing, because when they put the Koopalings in, it's 7 or nothing. And That's it. Which, again, makes sense. But when it comes down to it, I really do think that Cappy would be cool. You could argue that Nintendo might not want to do it because they already have Boo on the roster, but he's so different from Boo. Like, granted, they don't have powers in there. It's the rackets. It's not like he can like go and capture like another player and control them on the opponent's side or anything like that. You won't have any special gimmicks like that. But he would be so cute, you know, in his little hat form, and you'd have him like this. I get a lot of people when they think Cappy, they think Mario's hat with eyes, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why, because if they put this version Cappy, people might be like, oh my gosh, why isn't it a red Mario hat, but also the red Mario hat with eyes holding a tennis racket would just be weird. Let me know down below. I know I have a viewer who very much, like, every time there's one of these games, they're always saying, like, I want Cappy playable. Why has Cappy not been playable? So I'm not the only one who's noticing this. Like, it's strange. It is very strange. And we also haven't had, like, Odyssey rep for, like, stages and stuff. Like, Mario Kart World would have made so much sense to have a area from Mario Odyssey brought over and made into a track. You know, you've got the free roam area, and you could have just reimagined it for the idea of Mario Kart. But also, like, there's so many interesting areas inside Mario Odyssey. And the weird thing is, Dandelion Depths is basically Steamwork Gardens anyway. It's just weird to me. It's just very weird to me that they really celebrate and push Odyssey, but when it comes to the side games, even like years after, like at this point, they would have had time to consider putting Odyssey stuff into development. Yep, the NPC from Sand Kingdom. Here's where we're getting a little wacky. Nintendo really loves to put these weird side characters in, and to be honest, again, for Odyssey, I have always pushed for a Chivarian to be playable. I would love for Chivarians to be in like Mario Kart or just something just bouncing around, because they're so cute. They're so derpy, and I just love them. But for some reason, I can picture a Toasterinan, I think that's what they're called. I'm trying to learn their name, but like Chivarian's the only one I know because I'm so obsessed with them. But the Toasterian, I don't know why. I don't know if it's the maracas or what, but I can vividly see them holding a tennis racket. And it would be one of those like weird, out of left field picks that you wouldn't necessarily expect Nintendo to do, but like if you saw this character, you'd be like, oh my gosh, he's so cool. He's in the Mario universe. He like fits it, but it's wacky, kind of like how Chain Chomp is in Mario Tennis, and now it feels normal. But in Aces, it was like, what do you mean Chain Chomp is here? And like maybe not to the same extent, but I think it would be super cute, and like he's got a really cool design. You know, he would definitely stand out in a fantastic way in the roster. Next guy, the Chimp. Listen, I told you it was going to get weird. If you don't know who this character is, that's because he is from, I believe, Mario Galaxy 2. And in Galaxy 2, what he does is he challenges Mario as his rival. He just shows up and is like, hey, I want to race you. Kind of like Il Piantissimo in Mario Sunshine, except the main difference is that the Chimp is like an actual, like, fully designed his own character, and not like Running Man in a Pianta costume, which is still cool. We still haven't gotten that tease played off, and I could have jokingly been like, Il Piantissimo is playable in Mario Tennis Fever, but I mostly wanted to do this for one major reason. Mario's 40th is about Mario Galaxy. They are going hard on the Galaxy celebration, and I think there is going to be at least one rep that is from the Galaxy games. Now, you might argue there would be a different Luma that would fit this world perfectly. And that is very true. I agree, Lubba would make so much sense. However, we do already have Luma, and that does not exclude Lubba whatsoever, but I feel like if you were going to have it, it would be like one or the other. It's kind of like the vibe of like, is it going to be Boo or King Boo that's playable? And that's kind of how I see that. And we have Luma. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Lubba will join. Because out of all the Galaxy characters, he makes the most sense. But I thought, what would be one of those random things to throw out there? And you know what? I think the Chimp. Because whenever I think random left field playable character from Galaxy, Chimp is always who comes to mind. I can't explain why, but that's who I always think of. Even though they have never been playable, it would be so left field, but it would be so funny. It would be so funny, and I think that there is potential there. Again, you could replace this prediction with any Mario Galaxy character. You might also say Honey Queen, because Honey Queen has been in Mario Kart 7. Dear God, please don't. Please don't give us an HD Honey Queen that we play in Mario Tennis. I will never hear the end of it. I don't want it. I don't need it. Please no. Please do not put Honey Queen in that spot. But I do think that it will be something Mario Galaxy to showcase that. That spiel aside, we have the next character, which is King Bob-omb. Now, there was another character that I'm not going to talk about at this moment that I did consider for this slot. But I mostly wanted to choose King Bob-omb for a few reasons. I actually think he's had a really big resurgence lately as a playable character. And just as a character in general. He's one of those weird, obscure characters that you just don't expect to see, and then in Mario Party, they'll like theme a board after him, or they'll make a minigame boss thing where you fight King Bob-omb and you destroy him, and then he's like playable in Mario Kart Tour. But I think it's weird because he's kind of becoming that risky, safe guess. Like if you're going to guess something, Bob-omb is probably not going to be playable. But if you did have a Bob-omb type character, it would be King Bob-omb, and I think a lot of people just really like him. He's goofy, he would be pretty easy to model, and he is playable in Mario Golf. That doesn't like confirm anything, but that gives a little bit more credibility about the possibility of somebody like King Bob-omb showing up and being playable. Also just think, you know, another heavyweight character in the roster. There's really not a lot of like power defensive big style characters, so you can add another one in there and you can have fun with it. The last one, the Skedaddle. I think that's its name. Skedaddle, I think. I mostly think that there is going to be something from Mario Wonder. Now, initial thought would be Prince Florian. I can say his name. However, he's in a chair where he's doing referee work, and unlike Toad, there's not multiple versions of this character. So I think it's more likely that it's like, hey, here's a little reference to him in Odyssey mode. You've got the Hop-Ips, which honestly, Hop-Ip would have been so funny to be playable, but it's another one where it's like, I don't know how they would figure out doing the racket. And looking at all of the Mario Wonder characters, the one that feels like it would fit the most in a playable roster and would be able to hold a racket is Skedaddle. You can have it use an ability where it's like it spits, it's like acorns, or have like a racket based on that where like you hit it and those acorns come out, something like that. But it really is just, hey, very Mario Wonder themed. So I think that they'll probably have some sort of Mario Wonder rep. And the safe bet would have been to predict something like a Poppin, which could be another argument why Toad isn't there. Because if a Poppin's there, it might be a little bit too similar to have Poppin, Toad, and Toadette at the same time. And while I would have loved to guess somebody like Toadsworth, it does not make sense for Toad to just not be playable. So with that logic, I also think if Toad is there, a Poppin would again just be kind of like a different Toad feeling. But it has been done before because we've seen like Sprixie Princess in Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Now, that is 38 characters that have been listed. But that is not the end of the video because I thought of a few other characters that could potentially be in the roster, but I didn't think that they were worth putting in the 38, and I wanted to give an honorable mention for a few different reasons. Flutter. Now, honorable mention is because Wiggler or Flutter was the main answer for my one prediction, and I mostly went with Wiggler because he was the main playable character inside Mario Tennis, and you more often see Wiggler. But if they wanted to go with the variant but still keep a Wiggler style character, Flutter could be interesting. He has never really been playable. In Mario Power Tennis, he was Wiggler's special. Like, he turned into Flutter and then hit the ball with the racket. So it is very possible. We also don't have too many flight type characters inside of this roster, unless you include like Paratroopa, which again is very possible. But I think it could be interesting. It could add a little bit more variety and just make the roster feel more interesting. Because at the end of the day, that's something that they want to do. They want to have something that catches your eye, like Baby Waluigi. And the more they have of that, the more likely it's going to be that people are going to want to buy the game, are going to want to play as these characters. Flutter would be super cool, and I would play as Flutter. I would honestly play as him over Wiggler just because the novelty is there. I definitely think it is. Let me know in the comments, do you think that if Wiggler or Flutter would be in, which one would you prefer to be in? Next honorable mention is Goomba. Now, he's an honorable mention for one specific reason. I didn't want the video to be boring. If I had a prediction video and I sat here and I said, I think that the characters that aren't confirmed are Toad, Koopa Troopa, Paratroopa, Bowser Jr., Diddy Kong, Kamek, Goomba, Hammer Bro, like everybody who's already modeled in the game, there's no point in me making the video. Somebody else could easily do that, and it's not as fun because it's so predictable. But Nintendo isn't predictable. Now, I do think that Goomba is a very likely choice, but also Goomba is one of those weird characters like Cappy that Nintendo doesn't like to use for things. And I don't want to hear the whole argument of Goomba doesn't have arms, Goomba can't hold the racket. Goomba didn't have arms when he was playable in both Mario baseball games, but it didn't stop them, and he didn't hold them with his mouth. They just floated there, and he can drive a kart in Mario Kart World without touching the steering wheel. So can a lot of characters. So, like, I don't want to hear the argument of, well, he doesn't have arms to hold this. Because Nintendo doesn't care. The main thing is, does Nintendo think it is worth making Goomba playable? Yes or no? And I think Koopa Troopa has always gotten the Mario enemy rep, the like first Mario enemy rep inside of the side games. Whereas Goomba really hasn't, because Koopa was originally intended to be like the first Mario enemy altogether. But Goomba was added to make the game less hard. And I just think that it makes a lot of sense, but also it's just a boring answer, you know, and that's usually why Goomba isn't playable. But I also didn't want to like throw out like King Goomba, which honestly King Goomba would have been super cool, but until they just randomly throw him out, I think it's going to be one of those that is just kind of hard to see coming, just like how King Bob-omb was. Because King Bob-omb, when he became playable, it was one of those left field, hey, you should buy this game because this character is now playable that you've never been able to play as, and King Goomba easily could be that. That being said, next character, Monty Mole. Just like Goomba, I didn't want to say Monty Mole because even though he would be new, it would make a lot of sense. He was in the Mario movie trailer. He's a very prominent Mario enemy that has weirdly enough not been playable in this type of game. He's already in the game. I just didn't want to put him on the main prediction roster because, again, it's kind of expected. But he has been playable in quite a lot. He's been playable in Mario Baseball. He's been playable in Mario Party. He's now been playable inside of Mario Kart World. And arguably, you could also say Rocky Wrench. Rocky Wrench would be another really fun one because he's actually really cute in Mario Kart World. And he's, like Monty Mole is cute. I think he's a charming character, but he also gives off generic Mario enemy. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. Rocky Wrench really feels like a more personalized version of Monty Mole. And I didn't originally feel that way, but after Mario Kart World, I'm starting to kind of feel that way where it's like, okay, well, they're both here, but I'd rather play as Rocky Wrench because it has so much more personality than Monty Mole does. Next character is King Caliente. So there's two reasons why I didn't want to choose King Caliente. There's a few actually. Mainly because if I had King Caliente and King Bob-omb on the same roster, I don't know. I feel like that's a bit too much of like, here's a king character. It's not to say that there can't be two king characters, but I feel like it would just be kind of silly. King Caliente is another like really out there left field guess, just like how Chimp is. But unlike Chimp, King Caliente, as far as I know, has never really had his full body shown. He's always under lava. You're fighting him, and maybe it's shown when you defeat him, but he's kind of like a king version of the Octogoomba that's there, which you could argue Octogoomba could be a weird Mario enemy that could be in the game that reps Galaxy in a weird way. But I don't know, I thought King Caliente would be a fun mention, and it would just be really fun to see him like squirming across the court and just kind of like weaving a little bit, holding the tennis racket in his tentacle and like trying to hit the ball and getting kind of angry, which honestly Wiggler kind of also fits that role. So I guess that's another reason not to have them be on there. It's another thing of like the Chimp. It's a long shot. It is a long shot prediction, but I thought it could be super cool. And again, it would be another thing that celebrates Galaxy, and people would see it and be like, what the heck is King Caliente doing as a playable character in Fever? Next one, though, is the Womp King. So I was between King Bob-omb and Womp King. And as I said with King Bob-omb, I chose King Bob-omb for the fact that he has been playable and has been referenced. He's more popular, and he's just there. The problem with Womp King is the fact that it's just a womp with a crown. And sure, King Boo is that, but I feel like King Boo is cute enough to get away with that. A womp has never really been playable, so if you're gonna have any, I feel like just having a regular womp would make so much sense. It could be interesting for a tennis game where they're like this huge wall and more defensive, but they're slower. I guess it would kind of be a similar role to like Chain Chomp, for example. But I was trying to think of like king characters that haven't really been used at all and who would be interesting to show. Womp has not been inside of a game as a playable character ever. And then King Womp has just straight up never been used. So that could be an interesting sell point, but at the same time, Is anybody really asking to play as Womp? Like, the only time I'm asking to play as a character like that is usually when I'm saying, hey, I want to play as Thwomp in Mario Kart just because I think it would be super funny. But, like, Womp is kind of like the awkward cousin of Thwomp, where it's like, yeah, you're there. He's there. He's an obstacle. But, like, does anybody look at Womp and think, like, I want to play as that guy? Probably not. So it's not really someone that would be thrown into a roster like this. Because there's maybe like 2 or 3 people that'd be like, yeah, Womp King. I'm gonna be honest. Like, sure, he's got a strange face, but it's just a cinder block. I mean, he's got the X on his back. That's kind of neat. But yeah, let me know. Would you play as Womp or Womp King? Next up is Mama. Yes, this was my original option for a Mario Wonder rep. Mama is a fan favorite. He's super cute, and he's one of those enemies that I feel like I hear a decent amount of people talk about. If you're talking about a Mario Wonder enemy, this is one of those characters that instantly comes to mind. He's weird, he's quirky, he opens his mouth and he just runs at you super fast. The main reason why I chose not to use him and specific enemies, because I did consider like maybe Buzzy Beetle or, you know, the snail from Mario Wonder, anything like that. But I feel like they're just too small. They're characters that maybe they would work in a cart, but to hold like a tennis racket and try to move around as them, I don't think they would be big enough, and to make them big enough, I feel like it would be weird. And like Goomba, you can kind of put it to the side and it's fine for a tennis racket or a baseball bat. But like Buzzy Beetle, you kind of have to do like a spike top, and instead of a spike, it's the tennis racket, and he just lunges to hit the ball, which honestly would actually be kind of funny if that's the case. I guess I could have gone with Para Buzzy Beetle as an option. That's another possibility. See, look at that. I'm thinking of random things that could potentially be there. But Mario Wonder-wise, I think Mama would have been super cute. It would have been one of those characters that I think a lot of people would have enjoyed. And my solution for how he would hold a tennis racket is by his tail. You could also argue he would just hold it in his mouth. Just be a really big tennis racket, or he'd have netting on his face and just lean to hit the ball. There's a lot of arguments there, but I definitely felt like, as cute as Mama is, as likable as he is, I felt that as a Mario Wonder enemy, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to have him be playable in a game like this. It is sad, but again, this is not a list of people that I want. This is a list of people that I think could potentially be on the list. And I know that sounds a little bit weird when I'm like, chimp! But I did say my reasonings. Now, the last one is one that everybody predicts for every Mario side game, and I hear you. I only put him on here because I originally wasn't going to put him on honorable mentions, but I put him on here because I felt that if I didn't say it, it would break the honorable mentions roster prediction code that every Mario game has. That being EGAD. I would absolutely love EGAD, and I have been crying for Nintendo to add EGAD to like anything as playable, especially Mario Kart. He's this weird, wacky old man character from Luigi's Mansion, and it would just make so much sense because, yes, you do have this as this is the Mario universe. We're going to use these Mario characters and Mario enemies, but you've also branched out into these different side games. So, like, why not dip into Luigi's Mansion and throw out EGAD or Polterpup? Like, that would be super cool, so unexpected, and just super cute to, like, see potential characters like that. Or going into, like, Wario, like Wario's series, and putting in Ashley. There would be so many fans that would be so excited for something like that. And I feel like Egad is like the big character for that. He's that staple choice where I think he was like a scrapped character for like Mario Kart DS or something. And ever since, everybody has just been like, why do you not just make Egad playable in something? Because it's so unique, and it's another human Mario character, which we don't really see a lot of, which does seem a little bit weird. But he's so different from the other characters that he stands out. And like he was in like Mario and Luigi, and then Luigi's Mansion, and those were like the two main things Egad was in. But yes, I do want him, and who knows, maybe at some point I will try to do a roster video of characters that I personally want, like a wish list. We have Cap, we know it's 38, and what is the realistic possibility of characters that we will see, but also making it a fun video? Because again, if I'm throwing out Baby Daisy, Baby Rosalina, Paratroopa, Hammer Brother, Monty Mole, Goomba, there's like 6 characters there that is such all safe choices that could easily be predicted for this game. Like Metal Mario, Pink Gold Peach, I don't know. Would you want to watch that though? Would you want to watch that? So yeah, I tried to keep a relatively safe but also like risky predictions, because like Diddy Kong makes sense, Kamek makes sense, Wiggler I feel like makes sense, and then, you know, a lot of them it's kind of mixed bag. Cappy should make sense, but for some reason Nintendo doesn't agree with me. But that is going to be it for my Mario Tennis Fever roster prediction. Will this age well? I have no idea. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait until we get another Fever trailer, or until February. I'm going to be honest, I don't know if or when I will get this game, because as much as I love stuff like the Mario Sports games, this is a $70 Mario Tennis game, and I feel like I would rather wait a little bit on it just to see where does the game go, what characters are going to be inside of it, is the gameplay loop super interesting, because I have to be a lot more picky and choosy about what I want to do with money and what games I want to get. I mean, we all kind of do at this point. But it is super cool seeing characters like Luma returning. We've got Petey Piranha in the base roster confirmed. We got Chain Chomp coming back. We've got Baby Wario and Baby Waluigi. So, like, I'm excited about that stuff. And the game does look pretty nice. But I think I need to see a little bit more to be convinced, because right now, I am a little bit skeptical. But if we did see a roster as silly as this, with some mixture of this style of thing, I think it could be a really good way to sell the game. But again, predictions, not wish list. So, you know, I'm not going to start a Mario Tennis Fever roster prediction and be like, so Callie from Splatoon, I think she should be playable. No, I'm not gonna do that. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, but like I said, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below, what characters do you guys think are gonna be in Mario Tennis Fever? How close do you think I was with the predictions? Do you like my predictions? Do you hate my predictions? Are you mad that I said I don't like Honey Queen? Whatever the case may be, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Keep your toes safe.